Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Rich. I have
Yeah,
Sashwath with me remotely from college. He has an interesting article which he shared with me, and instead of me talking to you about it, I thought it's better that he himself talks to you about it. So, without wasting much time, tell us about this article, Shashwath.
yeah. More than an article, it's an interview which the Federal Reserve chairman had given to, I think, CBS or one of those U.S. networks. And this was a 60-minute interview, I think, and he had basically talked about how there's not much to worry about, in the sense that this is the first time we've seen a Fed Reserve, chairman say that things are going pretty good. And anyone who mans the Federal Reserve is usually very careful with their choice of words. They tend to leave themselves an escape route for when things hit the roof. But it seems to me that Jerome Powell is quite confident in how the US economy is progressing, because he said that instead of six rate cuts, which the market was predicting, that is 25 basis point cut for every single cut, and six of those throughout the year, the Federal Reserve chairman had basically said that maybe only three cuts are required during this year. So that's only 75 basis points of cuts which are required. And this is tremendous news because six rate cuts is a number which is close to 1.5% of an interest rate cut, whereas 75 basis points is just 0.75 if in terms of interest. So that's a big difference. And what has prompted this? Because recently there have been job market reports where the US has added on over 320,000 jobs last quarter. And this comes in at a crucial point, because there were two camps. One camp which felt like inflation was going to run amok and it was going to basically require the Fed to raise rates or hold them where they are. And there's the other camp which believed that the Fed went too hard on the economy, and now you're going to see a huge decline in the economy and a huge recession. So, but then these numbers basically show that inflation on the one hand is tame, but at the same time the economy is resilient. So unemployment rates have not skyrocketed, and this is a great place for the US economy to be. And what Jerome Powell has said is that we're not waiting for better news, we're waiting for this better news to continue being better, in the sense that we're waiting for this news to keep being the way it is. This is the perfect place to hold your economy. And it's Jerome Powell's job not to steer the economy into a better place, but rather to maintain the economy where it's at. And this is a very rare role which is presented upon Jerome Powell, because usually you're putting out fires. Either your economy is too hot, there's a huge asset bubble brewing and you have to, hose it down, or there's a fire because of a huge recession like the 2008 crisis, and you always have something to battle. But this is the first time Jerome Powell is only expected to keep things going as they are. And this is basically the news which has come out. And this is quite interesting for an investor, because
Hmm.
as an investor, what this means for you is that you don't have much of information in terms of macro economics to go
Hmm.
off of, in the
Hmm.
sense that you don't have enough information on whether there's going to be recession. If there's going to be a recession, then you want to hold on cash and then splurge when the prices crash. Whereas if the market is going to go into a boom cycle, you tighten your belts and you basically only invest in SIPing fashion. Whereas now you don't have any information to go off of, and it's basically, value investing's fertile grounds, basically, where you
True.
want to pick companies which have great fundamentals, because you cannot make a macro bet. You can't say that, okay, interest rates are going to rise and I'm going to buy gold. That's not
True.
something which you can do anymore. So this is quite a unique spot we're standing at, and it requires us to revisit our fundamentals of being an investor. And you can't bet on the macroeconomy to tell you what kind of assets you're supposed to be located in.
I agree with what you're saying about that, and that explains why the retail investors and a lot of institutional investors have been binging on a lot of debt. A lot of these bonds which are being available at these kind of interest rates globally. A lot of investors have been picking up these bonds because if the interest rate starts turning, the cycle starts turning, and rates starts going down, you're not going to get these high kind of interest bonds anymore because lending will become much cheaper. So it makes ties in and makes sense with that. But to the same extent, there are banks which are in trouble, which Anand has spoken about in another video. There are a couple of banks in the US which are in trouble. A Japanese bank which is in trouble. There's a German bank which is kind of in a little bit of trouble. So it's not all roses. So I really don't know what Jerome Powell is trying to do. Is he trying to give optimism? Because he's being also accused by the Republicans, especially Trump, who's threatened to replace him with someone who's more aligned to him and his views as soon as he comes into power. So is he trying to play to the American election cycle? I don't know. It's a bit confusing. That I do agree, Shashwat. The signals from Powell is some of it is contra to what is happening in the market, though.
There has been one bank which has been in trouble of late. The New York Community Bank Corporation is the bank which is in trouble as of late. And there's a nice saying for banks which are in trouble, it's a cockroach. Where if there is one cockroach, then it's very difficult for you to predict that there aren't more cockroaches. So
True.
once you see one of them, you have to prepare for an entire infestation. And
Yes.
that's
Usually
sort
they
of
don't come in as a single cockroach.
exactly. Because banks are very interconnected in terms of how they function because they borrow from each other, they lend to each other, and they provide collateral and credit to each other. But then the New York Bank Corporation bought up some of the assets from Signal Bank or First Signature Bank, sorry. And when First Signature collapsed, and there is the idea that it's having some digestional issues in the sense that some of the assets it has acquired is now under scrutiny because of the net interest rate margins coming down. So the
Hmm.
net interest margins only being that the rate at which you lend at versus the rate which you're able to borrow at. So
Hmm.
because your net interest margins have come down, because collateral requirements have increased, you're basically seeing that the NYBC has to sell some of their more profitable assets for liquid assets, and that has created a sort of turmoil for this bank. But that being said, yes, it's very possible that at any moment something might snap or give out, and we're not able to observe that where the sort of tension line exists. And it's
And
very possible.
exactly ties in with what Nassim Taleb had said in his conference where he was sitting on the panel, but he said on the investor one which he's running, that Universa,
Yeah,
whenever he's
universal.
running. Yeah.
Yeah,
So in that he had said that Americans have been binging on debt far too long and you're in a debt spiral right now. He says, yes, we have the reserve currency, yes, we can print as much as we want. But he says exactly what you said, that the whole world is interconnected so deeply, we can't even see the interconnections anymore. And some regional tick off somewhere can boomerang and come into the American system and knock all of us out. He says that's how the dire the situation is as far as debt is concerned. So in middle of all that, if you're already borrowing too much and we've borrowed too much, and the American government is refinancing and borrowing aggressively, and there's an election cycle coming, and there seems to be an appetite for more borrowing. In that kind of environment, should borrowing become cheaper? I do not know. Are you encouraging more borrowing? I am not able to understand this. It just doesn't make sense.
yeah, it's true that if whether directionally speaking, rate cuts are important right now or are the thing to do is something which we'll have to see because the Fed is not reactionary. The Fed ends up being more proactive. So when they
Yes.
expect that the economy might take a downturn, especially considering election cycles are up, like you said, he may be more willing to do rate cuts when maybe they aren't required. Maybe you can negotiate or maybe you can argue saying that okay, maybe why not hold the rates at where they are and we'll see as the job market numbers slow down, because if you actually look at the amount of jobs added, it's twice the amount predicted. So
Yes.
that can definitely lead to someone arguing that hey, okay, maybe we are moving a little too fast, maybe we should sort of continue keeping rates where they are and slow down the economy, cool it down a little bit. But I think Powell is sort of petrified of having a recession, and
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to let one happen because this entire soft landing business has been something which the Federal Reserve Committee members have been looking for and going after.
True. And also, the problem is in the American heartland right now, though the economy is doing well, job numbers are doing well, whatever you want to say, the markets are doing well, the average American is not feeling it. and that is a big problem for the ruling class. That includes the Federal Reserve because they're part of the ruling class. The majority of the Americans, middle class and lower, are not feeling the so called good economy. There is something awry there because Joe Biden is facing a lot of backlash whenever he's stumping anywhere, that people are not happy with the economy. Though the numbers are great and everything is hunky dory as far as numbers are concerned, but people are not feeling so great about it because it's not at their level for some reason. I don't know. Is it? I didn't think America is going through a K-shaped recovery like what India is doing. I don't understand what's happening there. Do you have any insight into that?
I mean, yeah, inequality and distributional issues, of course, play into it. Especially because if you go by what numbers are doing well, if you suppose take the magnificent seven companies and you take, you know, Nvidia, Google, I mean, Alphabet, Meta, and all these companies, you end up, again, you have a similar problem in India, but more magnified in India, which we're seeing a little diluted in America, which is that most of the poor don't own assets. So
Hmm.
when your assets end up doing well, they're not going to be able to cash in on these returns. So if your
True.
stock market is doing well, you have to wait for that benefit to sort of trickle down, and whatever little droplets fall into the bucket of the lowest rung, great, that's all they have. You don't have much of the gains have been shaved off by the upper rungs of this trickle down effect, which is
True.
why we should be talking about a trickle up policies rather than trickle down policies, because trickle down policies have seemingly created more discontent amongst the population. Even in
No,
India,
it's
if you
very
look at
true.
even in India, if you look at it, you have 800 million people on food grain subsidies. That is, they're offering free food grains basically to pacify most of the masses. Because, truth to be told, most people aren't able to afford at least a part of their diet, in the sense that they need at least a portion of their diet subsidized. So, I
True.
think this is a global problem of rising inequality, which we're seeing, especially post COVID, than just an American phenomenon.
No, in the US, what's happened is most Americans historically have measured their wealth in home equity. And the way aggressively the American housing market has gone, accelerated away, it has priced most people at the age 35 and below out of the market. People who are 35 and below in the United States can't dream of home ownership or home equity the way their parents did. It's just not possible anymore because the market has run away. And until and unless that housing issue, where United States historically has always measured its wealth in, if the government does not fix that, I think a big portion of them feeling the inequality is because of that. It's just that people can't afford decent housing anymore, and it's terrible there. The way it is so, like you said, lopsided, that the rich seem to be affording bigger and more houses and owning a lot, while the lower end of the spectrum are finding it difficult to hold on to what they have.
And especially those who financed their houses low interest rates had to basically contend with higher rates on their loans, and
Yes,
now they're struggling because, one, your price has gone down, so
true,
your asset value has gone down, so now you can't exit for a profit because you'll be sort of locking in your losses, if that makes sense.
true,
And on the other end of the spectrum, you're also paying through your nose because the interest rate is now at 5.25%. So
true.
it's quite a tricky situation, and I'm just glad that I'm not the Federal Reserve governor right now.
Yeah, and me too, man. It's just happening all over UK too. Even London is going through this grip right now, where people who are below 35 are unable to afford the shoebox apartments in London anymore. London has become very, very expensive, and it's crazy. I don't know what the Bank of England is thinking either. I wouldn't want to be sitting at the head of that one either. But I have Rishi Sunak as my prime minister. Anyway, this is an interesting article, and it gives us an insight into how not so black and white things are right now in the world, especially when it comes to macroeconomics. Usually we have a little more clarity on these things. It's still very confusing as it is.
That being
And
said,
God,
sorry, yeah, go on.
God forbid if Trump wins and he throws power out and puts some crackpot inside, then we're going to have a real fun.
I mean, that Trump wins, everything is out of the window. There's no prediction going on.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
least with Biden, you have a sort of milquetoast precedent where you can sort of figure out what the old man is thinking. But
yeah.
with The other old man, there's no telling what he is capable of, and what, because he's claiming that he'll end the Ukraine war as soon as he comes in 24 hours. And
Yeah.
he's talking about how he's going to solve the Israel Palestine crisis. I mean, I don't know what's going on in his head, but there's a 50%
I don't
chance that
think
we.
I don't think he does think, Shashwat. To be really honest, the way I've seen him speak in any of his stump speeches, especially for this election cycle, I don't think he even thinks. He just gets on top of the stage and he just goes for it. He says, "Okay," he takes a swig of Coca-Cola and then he's like, "Let's go, let me get the party started." And
No,
his base seems to be eating it up. And Nikki Haley has nobody now in that race. She's trying to stand so center now. She's looking more Democrat than Republican now.
no, and it's not just him and his
Hmm.
supporters, but also the greater Republican Party. No one seems to be able to budge him out. And
No,
you had that conservative spokesman, conservative speaker Ben Shapiro. He kept
hmm.
talking about the first rationality will be the one to win. I mean, rationality cannot defeat the man which the Republican nomination seems to be
No,
heading towards. There's no first to rationality here, nor is it. And that same Ben Shapiro, who basically talked about how Trump was a terrible candidate, and ended up saying that I'm going to be voting for Trump. So after Ron DeSantis got knocked
right.
out of the race.
All it reminds me of what George Harrison said, man. Beware of darkness. That's all I can say. Anyway, on that somber note, let's end this video. Thanks, Shashwat. Thanks for bringing this article. And it was really insightful to kind of get an idea on how it is and what it is. Do join us now and then. We do miss you on the channel. So we'll see you in the next one soon, I hope.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll hold you to that one. Thanks, Shashwat, and see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Good evening. My team has decided to do another event. The last event was at Trivandrum, was a very successful one. So we decided to ask people where we wanted to do an event, and my team chose to do an event in Dubai. We are planning to do an event in Dubai on the 24th of February. The event is roughly scheduled between 3:30 to 5:30. It's a Saturday, you will have plenty of time. Those desirous of attending the event or meeting me may contact my team at the WhatsApp number given below or drop an email at the email ID given. My team will contact you and help you. I hope to meet you all in Dubai. It's not only Dubai, anywhere from the Emirates. I hope to see you there. Thank you. It's a great privilege and honor that so many of you in thousands have subscribed to my channel and have supported me. I have written 2 books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support. If you like this video, press the subscribe button of my channel, hit the like button and turn on the bell notification.